friends, this is Hedda. Welcome back to my channel. It is time to set up a new bullet journal and I'm so excited to show you my setup and talk about the spreads that I made. Today we are saying goodbye to this beautiful notebook that has served as my bullet journal since January and moving into a brand new notebook. My new notebook is from Takkti, a small business located in Austria, and they are also the sponsor of this video. I actually have 3 notebooks from Takkti at this point, 2 that they gifted me and a 3rd notebook that I bought myself earlier this year. That's the one that I've chosen to be my new bullet journal. I had actually decided to use this notebook as my next journal before Takkti offered to sponsor this video, so it all kind of worked out really well. The notebook I'll be using is in the size A5 with 120 pages of 135 GSM dot grid paper. You can also get 125 GSM black dot grid paper. This notebook is handmade in Croatia. The cover is made from raw linen and the ribbon is made out of 100% recycled PET bottles. So for those of us in Europe especially, these notebooks are an environmentally friendly and local alternative when it comes to notebooks. I think the ribbon closure is so unique when most dot grid notebooks have an elastic closure. These linen notebooks are made in small batches with very limited stock, and that makes them feel extra special to me because I love limited edition stuff. Their core collection notebooks have a cork cover which feels really nice in my hands. I know that Takkti's notebooks are not cheap because their prices reflect the cost of producing the notebooks locally, and it's a really high quality product as well. But I do have a 10% discount code that you can use if you ever want to purchase your own Takkti notebook or get some washi tapes or stickers. The code is mochibujo10 and it gives you 10% off your whole order. In my personal, honest opinion, these notebooks are worth the price because they are really high quality. In addition to notebooks, Takkti also has washi tape and stickers, and these are some of the stickers that I have stocked up on. I'll be using some of these in the setup, so you'll see more of these later in the video. Thank you so much to Takkti for sponsoring this video. As always, I am really excited to be working with them and to be able to use their products. Before I start making my spreads, I just want to apologize for the low energy voiceover. I'm still recovering from COVID, so talking nonstop like this is a little bit draining for my voice, but hopefully I don't sound too sick. And now let's get started on the spreads. The very first thing I wanted to do was make a little cover page. This notebook doesn't have anything pre-printed in it other than the dots, of course. Like there's no section to write your name or anything like that. But I wanted to do a little collage here on the very first page so that there's something to introduce the journal, if that makes sense. I didn't write anything on this page while setting up my journal, but I did go back later and added my name and the year just for my own reference when I look through this notebook 10 years from now. This collage is made up of ephemera that you guys have sent me in pen pal letters, plus my own sticker that I drew for my patrons this month. It feels kind of like a group effort since it's made up of stuff that you guys have gifted me. As for the sticker, all patrons on the highest tier gets a vinyl sticker and a sticker sheet in the mail every month. And during July, this is the vinyl sticker that I am sending out. I really like it, so I decided to use it for my cover page. I think she looks so serene and comfortable and calm, and that's the feeling that I want to have when using my journal. This first page is actually the page that connects the cover of the notebook to the dot grid paper, and it's made with a slightly warmer white than the dot grid paper in the rest of the notebook. You can kind of tell when you compare the white border on the sticker with the white background. The cream color looks really nice with this collage, but I am happy that the rest of the notebook has completely white paper. I definitely prefer white paper over cream/yellowish paper, which is another reason why I chose this notebook for my new journal. I also wanted to change things up a bit, both in design and paper type, and this 135 GSM paper seems really good. I have absolutely no complaints so far. This cover page does not really represent the rest of my quote-unquote yearly setup in this notebook because I don't really like locking myself to just one theme when it comes to these first spreads in a new notebook. Some people really like to have an overarching theme and making all the yearly spreads look cohesive and the same, but I'm just not one of those people, I guess. I have a lot more fun setting up these spreads when I don't limit myself to one specific color scheme or a specific theme, and especially because I set up these spreads in one sitting because it's just easier for me to film it that way. It's important to me that I don't start to feel burnt out or that I run out of ideas. So although this first page definitely has a vintagey feel to it, that doesn't mean that all of my spreads ended up that way. Kind of far from it, actually. Moving on to what I consider to be the most important spread in my journal, which is the future log. I'm dividing my future log into 2 spreads with 6 months on each spread. A future log usually has little calendars for each month and then the room to write future appointments, birthdays, deadlines, etc. I've been using a vertical layout for my past 4 or 5 journals, I think, so this time I went for a horizontal layout just to try something different. The vertical layout gives me more room to write down events, but this horizontal layout feels a bit more fresh to me, and I'm all for trying new things or changing things up just for the purpose of changing them. I made little calendars on craft paper, and I was really inspired by Kat's Planner's June bullet journal setup where she made these little calendars for her habit tracker. I thought it was a fun different look because of the one ripped side, and I went with craft paper because I think it pops out a bit more from the white background. I picked out different washi tape for each month and then I put a strip on the outer edge of each month section. I'm gluing the calendars halfway on top of the washi tape so that the washi tape is still visible behind the calendars. It was really fun to pick out a washi tape for each month because I got to think about what colors that I associate with each month or which theme, I guess. These washi tapes don't represent my monthly themes for these months because I do not plan my themes that far in advance. In the order that I put them down, the washi tape for October was gifted to me, so I don't know where it's from. The washi tape for November is from Notebook Therapy's Maple Dreams set, and the tape for September is from Macy Lane Co. The tape for January and December were gifted to me, and lastly, the washi tape for August is from Paper Monogatari, aka Anna from Journal Away. And this is when you might be asking, wait, she's doing August to January, not July to December? And yes, you would be right. Although I'm setting up this notebook in July, I won't actually start using it until August, so it seemed a bit weird to include July in the future log. So instead of making my future log July 2022 to June 2023, I am doing August 2022 to July 2023. Most likely I'll be setting up a new journal in December to start in January since this notebook only has 120 pages, but I like to have a full year in my future log for the purpose of keeping track of birthdays and holidays. For the title of each month, I used stickers from Sleepy House Lion, and they were so great for these spreads. In my past few journals, I've really enjoyed using calendar stickers for my future log, but I didn't have any at hand this time, so I had to make the calendars myself, but at least I had stickers for the headers. For the main header of the spread, I didn't really have a plan before setting up the spread, but I wrote future log on the same craft paper as the calendars, which, by the way, is from a Notebook Therapy spiral notebook, so it's really easy to just rip out a sheet of paper without ruining the notebook. I used a washi tape from Notebook Therapy and just put it all along the top of the spread, and then I glued the title on top of it in each corner, flush with the craft paper calendars. Lastly, I picked up this idea from Anna from Journal Away to add little mini trackers for each month in the future log. I'm not 100% sure what I will track yet, but probably how many days I worked out each month, how many books I read, etc. just small things. I don't know if this is something I like or not, but I have to try it to find out, right? The next spread will be my future log for February through July 2023. It's the exact same layout, only with different washi tapes. The black fine liner I used for the dividing lines is a 0.5 fine liner, and each section is 5 centimeters tall, or 10 squares. For the washi tapes, I picked out one with rainbows on it from mochibujo store for June, and a cherry blossom themed one for April. I don't know where this one is from since it was gifted to me. For July, I chose a hydrangea / rainy season washi tape from Notebook Therapy. And then for May, I chose a green tape with lots of leaves on it because May is always so green and beautiful where I'm from. This one was also gifted to me, so I don't know where it's from. For March, I chose a beige constellations washi tape from Notebook Therapy, though I'm not sure why. I always have a hard time finding a theme for March because it's just dark and gray here in Norway. The winter just goes on and never ends, and March just feels really long. For February, I chose a pink washi tape from Notebook Therapy with bubble tea and strawberry daifuku on it because those are things that remind me of dates with my partner, and Valentine's Day is in February, so yeah, gross, I know. For the header, I used another washi tape from Paper Monogatari, which is part of Anna's Panda Valley collection. It's so pretty, so I wanted to put it somewhere that I will look at it often. I made the future log headers the exact same as on the other spread, or at least as similar as I could. Although the spreads are laid out exactly the same, I think that the use of different washi tapes makes it easy to differentiate them while also keeping a cohesive look. I'll put links to all of the washi tapes I used in the description box, except for those that were gifted to me since I don't know where they're from. I also have discount codes to some of these shops like Macy Lane Co. and Notebook Therapy, so you can get them a little bit cheaper if you want to buy any of them. The next spread I am setting up is actually a combination of 3 different things. On the left page, I'll be making a new Word of the Year spread, which if you watched my previous journal setup video, you might remember that I made a Word of the Year spread to kind of give myself some inspiration and motivation for the new year. I'm bringing the same word into this notebook since it's still 2022. But first, on the right page, I am making my period tracker. This is a very important spread for me, and I like to be able to track my period and period symptoms in a designated spread in my journal. My period tracker has pretty much looked the same since like 2018, but this time I felt inspired to do something a little bit different. Instead of my classic dot design, I'm making a full table this time, and I'm not only leaving room for a dot for when I have my period, but I also decided to add the moon phases. I'll admit that this is mostly for my own enjoyment, nothing else really. I know some people claim that there's some connection between a menstruating person's cycle and the moon phases, but I've already filled in my periods from January to July in the spread, and there's absolutely no correlation to the moon phases in my case. So this is more just for fun and also an excellent excuse to decorate the spread with moons and stars, which is what I ended up doing. And also, now I won't miss any full moons since I'll actually know when they are. It's not really that important right now in the summer because it doesn't really get dark in the evening here in Norway, but in the fall and in the winter, the difference between a full moon and a new moon is literally like night and day. You can see so much better in the dark with a full moon. Anyway, I used a thick fine liner to just write the first letter for each of the months as headers here since there isn't that much room for anything else. And then I wrote period tracker on top of them again. I strategically chose a simple kind of serif-ish font for this so that I wouldn't have to hand letter the K in tracker because Ks are the bane of my existence. Every month I hand letter all my patrons' names, or those on the Charles tier. I hand letter their names on the thank you card, and a lot of them have K's in them, and I do my best, guys. I really do. I know they're not the prettiest, but I'm doing my best. For decoration, I actually just did something really simple. I used this washi tape from Notebook Therapy and I put it along the bottom of the table, and then I used my X-Acto knife to cut out the parts that needed to be cut out. If you watched literally any other video of mine, you'll know that I love cutting washi tape with an X-Acto knife to kind of make it look like the washi tape is behind whatever is on the page, in this case the table. For the header, I did something a little bit different. I used a pet tape from Notebook Therapy, from the same set actually, and since it's pet tape, it's transparent, so I positioned it so that the title would be visible between the clouds. I think it actually turned out really cool, even though the headers for each month are kind of underneath the clouds. I can still see it, kind of, and I know that this is like a full year, so I'm not gonna like make a mistake or anything. So yeah, that's my period tracker this time around. It's a little bit different from what I'd normally do, but that's a good thing, right? Like I mentioned earlier, the left side will have my word of the year. So here I used a big vinyl sticker from Marigona Suli Art. It has tigers on it, and it is the year of the tiger. And if you remember my previous journal, I actually drew a little self-portrait of myself holding a little tiger. So I thought it would be fitting to also have tigers on this spread. And the colors just fit really well with the washi tapes I used on the period tracker, so I just went with more purples and pinks. The washi tapes that I used on this side of the spread were mostly gifted to me, so I'm not sure where they're from. And the same goes for the memo pad and the little frame that's sitting just above the big vinyl sticker, which is where I wrote my word of the year. Back in December, I chose the word growth as my word of the year for 2022. I wanted it to apply not only to my personal life, like growing as a person, but also to my professional life, as in growing my business and my social media presence. My YouTube channel hasn't really grown much at all this year, but I have committed to releasing new stickers in my sticker shop every month, as well as making exclusive stickers for my Patreon every month. So in that regard, I think the word growth is quite fitting this year. I've been talking a lot with my patrons this week about future endeavors and would absolutely love to release my own washi tape sometime in the future. So growth is definitely on my mind a lot, and it has inspired me throughout this year. I did find, however, that I didn't look at this page very much in my previous journal, so I intentionally put my word of the year next to my period tracker because that is a spread that I check very often. So this way I make sure that I'll be looking at it and thinking about my word of the year a lot more. Next up is a spread I was kind of missing in my previous journal. I mean, I did have a page for goals, and this is my own fault for changing my mind on the type of spreads I want all the time, but I didn't use it that much because I intentionally made the goals very big and I only had room for 2 goals for the year. Like, I set myself a goal for my income, for example. Since I'm self-employed, I wanted to set a goal for like the lowest possible income I could accept during 2022 to justify continuing with what I'm doing. Like, I don't talk much about this usually, but after I graduated with my master's degree, I gave myself 1 year to focus on my own business, and during 2021 I did not make enough money to support myself at all, but towards the end of 2021 I felt like if I kept going, maybe it would pick up. And so I gave myself another year to do what I'm doing and see where it takes me, and I think there's a big chance I'll give myself a 3rd year after this. And that's all thanks to my patrons and everyone who's bought stickers from me this year. And of course, those of you who watch my videos, although I will say that my income from AdSense on YouTube is like so small. But anyway, so my previous goal spread had room for 2 goals, and I did not have a spread for reflection. But since this is the journal I'll be using towards the end of the year, I thought it would be nice to have some room where I can kind of reflect on this year and what has happened and what's working in my life and what isn't, because after all, life is just one big project, right? Like you're never going to win at life. You're never going to be on the top like you have everything. At least I don't think so. So it's a continuous project, and it's nice to reflect upon things sometimes. So this spread is super minimalistic. I actually took inspiration from my own setup from July 2020, where I made these bubble letter headers and kind of had some like blobs of color in the background. But instead of the blobs, I used these tree trunk stickers from Takkti, and I really like them because when I look at the rings inside of a tree, it just reminds me of like patience. I used a few different kinds of stickers. So on the reflections side, I put 4 square stickers to make kind of 4 different sections where I can reflect on different things. And then on the goals page, I put some smaller slices of wood, like, I don't know, what are they called? Like tree trunks, tree rings, behind each subheader, to give it a cohesive look. So I have room for personal goals and work-related goals and also like intellectual goals. I recently picked up Japanese again because I lived in Japan for a long time, and living in Norway since 2018, I've kind of, let a lot of the language slip my memory. So yeah, that's definitely on my goals list to get better again and practice more. I really like this thing where I wrote on top of each sticker because I think that was a really cool look. And I think out of all of the spreads that I made in my journal so far, this one is my favorite. I don't know what it is, but like it's so clean and minimal, and the stickers are really cool. So I just really like it. This next spread is the last one I'll be setting up in this video, and it's also a spread I've never made before. Usually the back of my notebook has a bunch of pages where I've swatched markers and pens and washi tape to come up with color palettes and brainstorm theme ideas. But since this notebook only has 120 pages, I don't actually have that many extra pages to waste, I guess, in the back of my journal if I want it to last for 5 months. So I'm making the spread so that I can have a place for swatches. This spread is also split into 2, and I'm making the right page first. I saw Tina from Tina's Diary make this in her journal this summer, and she said she got the idea from Noka's Corner on Instagram. So now I guess I've gotten the idea from both of them. Since this notebook has a bit different paper than my previous 2 journals, I wanted to have a space for swatching my pens and markers, but swatching all of my markers and pens in the back of the notebook will take up too much room, so instead I'm making little swatch cards and placing them in this open envelope so that I can take them out and add to it over time. This next part hurt me a little bit because I actually had to cut out the pieces of paper from one of my other Takkti notebooks because it was the only way I'd get the exact same paper. There's no point in swatching markers on a different kind of paper because it might end up looking differently on different papers. So yeah, I did do surgery on another notebook, but desperate times. I decorated the spread with vintagey ephemera and stickers because I don't actually have tons of small envelopes lying around, so I just used the one that I had, which I think May from Made in Manila sent to me in a pen pal letter last year. Since it is kind of vintagey, I figured the only way to go from there was to decorate with more vintage stuff. So I used some ripped pages from books that you guys have sent me in pen pal letters, some washi tape from Notebook Therapy, craft stickers from Takkti, and some other smaller ephemera. And I made sure that everything was at least a little bit visible behind the envelope, since most of the page is taken up by the envelope and the swatch cards. I didn't make all the swatch cards yet, but I did do some swatches of some of my zebra mild liners, just so that you guys can see what it will look like eventually. On the left page, I am doing a kind of color palette slash swatch collection page. This is also something that I haven't done before. I cut out 6 smaller cards, also with the same Takkti paper, and I have one for each of the monthly setups that I'll be making while in this journal. So that will be August through January. I decorated it the same way as I did the right page, but I'm not doing an envelope for this page. Instead, I am using washi tape to tape each card to the page in a kind of waterfall style so that I can flip them upwards to look at them, if that makes sense. This is not something that I've shown you guys before, but usually before making a monthly setup, I brainstorm on a spread in the back of my journal and I test like different color combinations and fonts and washi tapes and stuff like that. But since I'm a little bit limited on pages in this journal, I'll be doing this brainstorming on these little cards instead. So for example, for August, I'll come up with a color palette and swatch the colors on this card, and maybe I'll even swatch some washi tape or a font as well, and then I'll be doing that for each month. So it's kind of like a functional collection spread, if that makes sense. I think I might have misspelled palette. I think you probably write that with just one L and not 2, but I wrote it with 2, so that's just the way it is. English is not my first language, and palette is also not a word I can remember learning in school. I hope that the spread will work for me and be functional the way I am imagining that it will be. It's always fun to try new spreads because you don't really know if they're going to be helpful or not, but I think this one will be. And in the past I've done like theme summary spreads, like with little squares where I've drawn little mini pictures that represent the themes for each month in that journal. And those spreads have been fun, but they've also been more work, if that makes sense. This spread will be helpful for me when I set up new spreads, and I can kind of brainstorm color palettes and ideas in advance, and I can write down which markers I'm using, for example. So yeah, I think this is a really fun spread. I'm really glad that I made it. And those are all of the spreads I'll be setting up in this video. So here is a flip through of the spreads you've just seen me make. I didn't make a series or movie tracker in this journal because I didn't use those spreads as much this year as I did last year, so I decided to just get rid of them for now. I also didn't show you my pen pal spread, but it looks very similar to the one in my previous journal, and it basically only holds my pen pal's addresses. I'm also making a YouTube schedule and idea spread, as well as a very simple budget slash finance spread, but I didn't want to put those in this video. I hope that you enjoyed watching this video and maybe you got some new ideas for your own journal. There's no better time to set up your first journal than right now, so please don't feel like you need to wait until January if you don't have a journal at the moment, because that's almost half a year away. I know that it is very tempting to only want to set up a journal to start in January because that's the beginning of the year, but I don't believe in that. I believe in setting up a new journal exactly when you need it, and that's why my journal starts in August. Thank you so much for watching this video and for clicking the like button and subscribing to my channel. It really helps me out. You can check out my other social media in the description box below. There's a link to my Instagram, my TikTok, my Patreon, and of course those discount codes that I mentioned earlier, they're all there as well. And now I will give my voice some much needed rest. And I hope that you're all having a lovely day, and I'll see you next time. Bye!